Hi guys, it's Evan Hogan again. So earlier I did my video on how my picture I made describes kind of the similarities between the Israel-Iran war and then the trials of Job slash the Book of Job. So I've been doing some research and working on my project. I'm very happy with it so far. So I would like to just read, tell you about the Book of Job real quick, and then about the Israel-Iran war, and then the similarities between it. So, in the Book of Job, Satan claims to God that Job is only faithful and righteous to God because he has his life easy. Job has an easy life because of God. God tells Satan that he is wrong and that Job is faithful and righteous to God because he loves him, and that he allows Satan to put Job on trial to prove that Job will love God no matter what. In the prosecution, Satan sends raiders who kill Job's livestock, servants, children, and they also take away his wealth and physical possessions, and also he loses his health, basically. So then, because of these trials, Job's friends claim that Job must have sinned because Job would never let this happen. Job claims that he has done nothing wrong, and demands answers from God. Finally, a young man named Opheliel discriminates against Job and his friends, and that it must have been deserving to be punished. God finally steps in and says that Job has committed no sins, and that he was putting Job through a trial to test his loyalty, which he passed. God then restored his health and wealth, which made him richer and gave him a new family. Through all this, Job still loved God more than anything and trusted God to do the right thing. So as we see, Job is a very religious man through it all. He doesn't question God. He doesn't discriminate. The only time he discriminates is when other people are putting sin on him and blaming him of sin when he had committed no sin. Okay, and now the Israel-Iran war. On June 13, 2025, Israel sent drone bombs to attack Iranian nuclear sites. In retaliation, Iran sent missiles to key Israelite cities, killing 30 people and injuring many more. After its attack, Iran declared war on Israel. This conflict may be more than a geographic clash, though. It echoes the trial of Job. Just as Job went through the trials, he lost his health, wealth, possessions, and children. The Israelites are now suffering the same fate, as the conflict is testing their national spirit and faith. The Iraqi military is the raiders from the story of Job, which involves the death of people, the loss of livestock, and wealth. When Iran bombed Israel, there is loss of life, loss of livestock, and loss of wealth all around because they hit major cities. The main question is, why is God allowing this to happen? There are two possible answers. One is that there is a test of faith, like how Job had to endure. The other possibility is that it's judgment from God because the nation is drifting away from God and is putting its faith in the worldly possessions, power, and worshiping false gods. Whatever the cause is, it calls for election and renewed trust in God. So as you can see, there's some similarities between the Book of Job and Israel-Iran war. When I was thinking about doing this project, I slept on it a day or two, and just watching the news has really been making me think about how the Israel-Iran story is kind of like the Book of Job in similar ways. No, it's not like a perfect comparison, but to me, it's like a 60-40 comparison. There's definitely a lot of similarities. I'll give you some examples right now. So, one of those similarities are the suffering of the innocent. So in the Book of Job, we know Job is innocent. He has committed no sins throughout his whole life. He's like a righteous man. He lives through God. He does everything that he's supposed to do to be a good Catholic Christian, Jewish. So he's a good man, and he's put up to a test/trial to test his faith. And so as of right now, the Israelites, that's the promised land of God. They do everything in their power, / they did everything in power to be good Christians, Jewish, Catholics, They loved God, they worshipped Him, and now they're going through this war. All because they were doing what they were supposed to do in their treaty against Iran, that Iran isn't supposed to have nuclear weapons right now. That's why they bombed. So they're getting punished for doing the right thing right now. Which, why would God allow that? Like, that shouldn't have been like a message being like, oh, no, they did the right thing. But God is allowing them to be punished by death, wealth being taken away, children getting lost, just all around horrible things, right? People's mental health is also going down. Their physical health is awful right now. So it's like the same as Jobs. He lost his children, his wealth, his physical health is gone, and he lost all of his livestock. His suffering and injustice is also like a really big comparison, I would say. So it was unjust for what happened to Job. Like, he was probably the last person to be put on for the punishment/trial because he was a perfect follower of God. He did everything he was supposed to, didn't sin. The Israelites, they have been trying to be perfect. They do anything in their power. It could also be a test of faith. Test of faith is a good comparison as well. God could be testing the Israelites' faith, trying to remind them who's the one and only God, and trying to renew them. Like how God was renewing Job, how he was testing Job's faith, so he's testing the Israelites' faith. Another comparison is God's mystery and silence through both events. During Job's event, no one knew why he was getting punished until God spoke up after him and his friends were getting discriminated against. How Job was being blamed of sin. God spoke up and said Job had not sinned. He was saying how Job was a very good follower of him. Same with the Israelites. No one knows why this happened to the Israelites. Everyone's confused. Everyone's crying out for help right now, just as Job was calling out. So, yeah. Righteous versus retribution. Some might think it's just an inconvenience that it happened for a reason, that it was an unjust reason. It harms innocent people on either side. Stupid game, stupid reward type of deal. So I'll read you what I wrote down though. Some might interpret the war as unjust, particularly if it harms innocent people on either side. This challenges a worldview where people accept righteous to be rewarded. And so in Job's story, just as Job's friends wrongly assumed his suffering was due to sin, some commenters may wrongly blame the victims of war for their situation. So those two compare a lot, very wellly. Political and prophet interpretations. So prophecy watchers sometimes link current Middle East conflicts to apocalyptic or biblical prophecies, including texts from Daniel, Ezekiel, and Revelations. Job never prophesies this war. It was just a story about Job and his trials. And although Job is not prophetic, is existential theme, suffering, faith, and divine justice that is going on in Israel right now. It's resonating with people trying to understand global turmoil through a spiritual lens. Some main questions are, why do the innocent suffer? Can faith survive destruction? Is there a larger purpose behind human pain? So here's some more similarities. In the book of Job, Job is a righteous man who endures immense loss, his family wealth, blah, 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 right? And so in the Israel war, innocent lives are taken on both sides. Like Job, many people ask, why is this happening to us, even when they feel blameless? The scale of suffering may seem out of proportion to perceived wrongdoing. In both cases, people endure hardships that seem unjust or inexplicable, prompting deep questions about fairness and purpose. Testing of faith. Job is tested, but he refuses to curse God. He demands an explanation but never fully gets one. So in Israel-Iran war, believes the region may feel like their faith is shaken by war, so they might cling tightly to religion for comfort. Some may question God's justice. Faith under fire, just as Job struggled to reconnect his suffering with his belief. Just God may today wrestle with belief during wartime. So then we also have, so God allows Satan to test Job, and to me, I feel like God is allowing Satan to test Israel during one of their hardest times. The absence of God in both of these situations leaves humans grasping for answers, much like Job did. Accusation and blame. Job turns to blame him for sin. And then in Israel-Iran war, both nations blame each other. A simpler term is blame just leads to harsh and sadness and emotions, and it leads to misunderstanding. Hope and restoration. In the book of Job, Job is restored after God comes out. He makes him rich again. He heals his health. He gives him a new family. Israel has future hope. They're hoping that they can rebuild after the war, regain their wealth, regain their health, regain their livestock. So yeah, there's also another explanation. God can also be punishing Israel because they've been like kind of distancing themselves from God. If they've been focusing more on money and fame and politics. So yeah, those are my how the book of Job and Israel-Iran war kind of coordinate, and how I kind of saw that as like, wow, this war is really giving off the book of Job and his trials because of how Israel is suffering. Thank you for your time. Hope you have a good night. Thank you.